I pretended not to understand Thai, while two women massaged me and ripped my body apart. Then one said, her husband asked for a happy ending. He told me she hasn't done anything for him in months. When I confronted him, he narrowed his eyes and said, if I wanted to cheat, I wouldn't leave evidence like that. I didn't respond. That was last spring. Today, he cried, watching me sign the custody papers. After 5 years teaching English in Thailand, I developed chronic back pain from those tiny plastic kindergarten chairs. So when my husband surprised me with a couple's massage at the fancy spa downtown, where both therapists were Thai, I got excited to practice again. But when they started setting up, barely acknowledging us beyond tight professional smiles, I decided to just relax and stay quiet like any other customer. 20 minutes in, they started chatting to each other. It was pretty loud, but I just let their familiar accent wash over me while they worked on our backs. Then one asked the other how much longer their shift was. 3 more hours. At least this couple tips well. Her hands pressed into my shoulder blade as she added, her husband is so hot I want to offer myself to him. A Thai phrase for someone being really handsome. That's when the tone shifted. The wife though, she clicked her tongue. Look at all this cellulite, like cottage cheese. My body tensed involuntarily, but I forced myself to relax, breathing steadily like I was just adjusting to the pressure. These stretch marks too. You can tell she let herself go. Probably had kids and gave up. They both laughed softly. The husband could do so much better. Any Thai woman would keep themselves beautiful for a man like that. My husband, blissfully unaware, let out a contented sigh next to me. You know what's sad? The one working on me dug her elbow in harder. She probably thinks this massage will help, like we can massage away 10 years of McDonald's. They kept going, discussing what they imagined I ate, how I probably trapped my husband with pregnancy, how American women age like milk, not wine. Well, I'd heard worse from the women in Thailand. Everyone there is obsessed with dieting and male validation. It's just the way it is, but it was never said directly to my face. The second therapist glanced at me, saw my eyes closed, and got bolder. Look at her pretending to sleep, probably embarrassed her husband has to see her naked. I would be too with that stomach. That was the moment I stopped feeling bad for them and decided to let them play themselves. Should we recommend the slimming treatment? One asked. Commission is good. She needs surgery, not treatments. The other laughed. But yes, let's try. Americans are stupid with money. Perfect. I made a small, pleased sound like I was enjoying the massage. I felt her hands pause, probably smirking. 10 more minutes. 5 more minutes. They described in vivid detail how they'd steal my husband if they could, what they'd do to keep him happy, how Thai women understand real beauty. Finally, as we neared the end, one therapist moved to my head for the final neck massage. I was just about to reveal that I knew the language, until suddenly my husband's massage therapist said, wait, can I tell you something? Talking to my therapist. She giggled like it was a secret, and I was nosy AFLL. What? The other one asked quietly. This isn't the first time I'm seeing her husband. My heart started pounding. I kept my breathing steady, eyes closed. She continued. I massaged him and he asked for a happy ending. My whole world tilted. He said his wife doesn't take care of herself. They haven't had anything for months. I opened my eyes under the face cradle, staring at the floor. I lay there frozen, my mind racing. The words echoed in my head. Happy ending. Doesn't take care of herself. Months without anything. My stomach churned as the therapist's hands moved to my temples, pressing in circular motions. Is pressure okay? She asked in English, her voice sweet and professional. Fine, I managed to say, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. David groaned contentedly on the table next to me. The sound made my skin crawl. How many times had he been here? How many times had he complained about me to strangers while asking for? I couldn't even think the words. The therapists continued their work in silence now, probably satisfied they'd shared enough gossip for one session. My mind spun through possibilities. Maybe she was lying, trying to impress her coworker. Maybe she had him confused with someone else. Maybe. But the details were too specific. She recognized him. She knew things. 20 minutes felt like hours. When they finally announced we were done and left us to get dressed, I moved mechanically, pulling on my clothes while David stretched and sighed happily. That was amazing, he said, pulling his shirt over his head. We should do this more often. I nodded, not trusting my voice. My hands shook as I tied my shoes. At the front desk, I watched David tip generously, our usual 20%. The therapist smiled and thanked us. No hint of their earlier conversation on their faces. I forced myself to tip the same amount, not wanting to seem suspicious or bitter. My therapist's eyes met mine briefly, and I saw a flicker of something. Pity? Amusement? I looked away. The walk to the car felt endless. David chatted about how relaxed he felt, how his back hadn't felt this good in months. I made appropriate sounds, my mind elsewhere. As we reached the car, it hit me with crushing clarity. I had absolutely no proof of anything, just overheard gossip in a language my husband didn't even know I spoke. You're quiet, David said as he started the engine. Everything okay? Just relaxed, I said, staring out the window. Good, you needed this. He reached over and squeezed my knee. You've been so tense lately. The drive home took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of David humming along to the radio while I replayed every word, every detail. When did he come here without me? How often? What exactly had happened? Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. Do you ever get massages without me? You know, when your back acts up? He glanced at me briefly before turning back to the road. Sometimes, when you're busy with the kids or at work. Why? No hesitation. No telltale signs of lying. Just an easy, casual response. Just wondering, maybe I should go more often too. For my back. You should. It really helps. At home, I made excuses about needing to catch up on emails while David headed for the shower. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table, my fingers hovering over the keyboard before typing in our bank login. The statements loaded slowly, each second stretching endlessly. I scrolled through the last 6 months. There were spa charges. Some I recognized from our joint visits. Others on days I knew I hadn't gone. But nothing monthly. Nothing suspicious. $70 here, $80 there. Standard massage prices. Of course, I realized with a sinking feeling, he could easily pay cash for anything. Extra point. The shower turned off upstairs. I quickly closed the browser and opened my work email, pretending to read a message about quarterly reports when David came down in fresh clothes. "I'm thinking Thai food for dinner," he said, opening the fridge. That massage made me crave pad Thai. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Sure," I said. While he called in our usual order, I grabbed my phone and opened a text to Lisa. She'd lived in Bangkok for 3 years, spoke fluent Thai. We'd bonded over our shared experiences teaching abroad. "Random question," I typed, then deleted it. Started again. "Hey, weird question, but what does happy ending mean in Thai massage context? Writing a story and want to get details right." I stared at the message, then added a laughing emoji to make it seem lighter. Sent. David collected his keys. "I'll go pick up the food. 20 minutes? Sounds good." As soon as his car pulled out, I was Googling. Signs husband cheating massage parlor yielded millions of results. I scrolled through forums, Reddit threads, advice columns. The stories blurred together. Suspicious charges, changed behavior, working late. Nothing definitive. Nothing like what I'd overheard. My phone buzzed. "Lisa. Lol, what kind of story are you writing?" "But yeah, it means exactly what you think. Asexual services. Why are you really asking?" I stared at her message, then typed back, "Just saw it in a movie. Wasn't sure if it was accurate. Thanks." David returned with dinner. We ate at the kitchen table, the kids at their grandmother's for the night. He talked about the Peterson case he was working on, how the client was being difficult about deadlines. I nodded, smiled, asked the right questions, all while those words played on repeat in my head. That night, when David reached for me in bed, I didn't pull away. I couldn't. To reject him now would seem suspicious, would change our pattern. So I went through the motions, all while wondering if his complaint about months without anything was truth or lies. Had it really been months? I tried to remember the last time before tonight, but the days blurred together. Work, kids, exhaustion. When had we stopped being intimate regularly? He fell asleep quickly after, his breathing deep and even. I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The red numbers on the clock load. 11:47 p.m., then 12:23 a.m., then 1:15 a.m. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, careful not to disturb him. In the bathroom, I sat on the closed toilet lid and opened a new message to David. "We need to talk about what I heard at the spa today." Delete. "I know about the happy endings." Delete. "How long has this been going on?" Delete. 20 different versions. All deleted. What would I even say? "I speak Thai and overheard your massage therapist saying you asked for asexual services." He'd deny it. Say she was mistaken, lying, confused him with someone else. And I'd have revealed my only advantage, that I understood what they were saying when they thought I couldn't. 2:34 a.m. Then 3:18 a.m. At 3:47 a.m., I gave up and took a melatonin, forcing myself back to bed. The next morning came too soon. David kissed me goodbye like always. Mentioned he'd be working late on the Peterson case. The same excuse he'd been using for months, I realized. How had I not noticed the pattern? "Don't wait up," he said, grabbing his coffee. "This brief is culling me." "Okay, good luck with it." After he left, I called Element Spa. "Good morning, Element Spa. How can I help you?" "Hi. I was in yesterday with my husband for a couple's massage. I wanted to book another appointment and I was hoping to request the same therapists. They were wonderful." "Of course. Let me check who was working with you yesterday. What time was your appointment?" 2 o'clock, the Davidsons. "Ah, yes, I see it here. You had Maylee and Siraporn. When would you like to come in?" "Maylee and Siraporn." I wrote the names down. "Actually, let me check my schedule and call back, but thank you so much." I hung up and immediately Googled Maylee Element Spa. A few results came up. The spa's team page with professional headshots of all their therapists. Maylee smiled at the camera, her bio listing her certifications and specialties. Nothing else. No social media, no reviews mentioning her specifically. Like a digital ghost. I tried variations, Molly massage therapist, Molly Thai spa, but without a last name, it was hopeless. There were thousands of Maylees. The doorbell interrupted my search. Emma and Jake were back from their grandmother's, bursting through the door with stories about the movies they'd watched and the cookies they'd baked. "Mom, can you help with my history project?" Emma asked, dumping her backpack on the counter. "It's due Monday and I haven't started." "Of course, honey. What's it on?" "The Civil War. I have to make a timeline." Jake needed help with math homework. Then there was lunch to make, laundry to fold, groceries to buy. Normal life swept in like a tide, washing away the morning's obsession. But even as I helped Emma glue dates onto poster board, even as I explained fractions to Jake, the words echoed underneath it all. By evening, I'd almost convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe the therapist had been bragging, making up stories. Maybe David had just been friendly and she'd misinterpreted. Maybe. But I knew what I'd heard, the certainty in her voice, the specific details. 3 days passed in a strange fog. I went to work, made dinners, helped with homework, smiled at David across the breakfast table, all while watching him for signs, for clues. But he was exactly the same. Affectionate, but not overly so. Busy with work, but not suspiciously so. The same David he'd always been. On Thursday, I told him I was booking another massage for my back. "That's great, honey," he said, barely looking up from his phone. It really seemed to help last time. No reaction, no concern, nothing. I booked a solo appointment at Elements for Saturday, requesting someone other than Maylee. I needed information, but I couldn't be too obvious about it. The new therapist was younger, chattier. As she worked on my shoulders, I mentioned casually, "My husband David comes here sometimes. He loves this place." "Oh yes, we have many regular clients," she said, her voice professionally neutral. "It's nice when people find relief for their pain." A practiced non-response. They were trained well. He especially liked, I think her name was Maylee. "She's one of our senior therapists. Very experienced." Nothing. No recognition, no gossip, no hint of impropriety, just professional distance. I left the spa feeling more frustrated than relaxed. The therapist had given me nothing, and I'd wasted another $70 we couldn't really spare. Emma's college fund needed every penny, and here I was playing detective. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. I checked David's pockets while doing laundry, finding only receipts for coffee and client lunches. I scrolled through his social media, looking for signs of, what, a secret massage parlor review page? I even drove past Elements on a Wednesday afternoon, Maylee's scheduled day according to their online booking system, watching men enter and exit. But without going inside, without confronting her directly, what could I learn? Lisa texted me again about the the story I was writing. I deflected with vague responses about plot development. She seemed to buy it, or maybe she was just being polite. Either way, I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. Saying it out loud would make it real. The following Tuesday, David mentioned he'd tweaked his back at the gym. My pulse quickened as he stretched, wincing. Maybe you should get a massage, I suggested, keeping my voice neutral. Good idea. I'll try to squeeze one in this week. I watched his face carefully. Nothing. No guilt, no tells. Just a man with a sore back. That evening, while David helped Jake with his science project about the solar system, I excused myself to fold laundry. In our bedroom, I opened his dresser drawer, moving aside his socks and underwear. Nothing hidden. I checked under the mattress, feeling ridiculous. What was I expecting to find? A receipt that said, "Happy ending, $200? Emma appeared in the doorway. Mom, what are you doing? My heart hammered. Just checking if the mattress needs flipping. It's been a while. She gave me a strange look, but shrugged. Dad says dinner's ready. At dinner, I pushed food around my plate while David and the kids discussed Jake's upcoming basketball tryouts. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching my family through glass. How could they not sense that everything had changed? How could David sit there cutting his chicken, laughing at Jake's impression of his coach, when he'd possibly betrayed our marriage? You okay? David asked, noticing my full plate. You've barely touched your food. Just not very hungry. Think I might be coming down with something. He reached across the table, feeling my forehead. You don't feel warm. Maybe you should go to bed early. His touch made me want to recoil, but I forced myself to stay still. Yeah, maybe. After the kids went to bed, I found myself in the bathroom again, staring at my reflection. The therapist's words echoed. Cellulite like cottage cheese, stretch marks, let herself go. I lifted my shirt, examining my stomach. 2 pregnancies had left their mark. Sure, I wasn't 25 anymore, but did that justify what David had possibly done? I returned to bed to find David already asleep, snoring softly. His phone lay on the nightstand, charging. I stared at it, knowing his passcode had changed. When had that happened? We used to know each other's passwords for everything. The next morning, I called in sick to work. After David left and the kids caught the bus, I drove to Elements. Not for a massage, but to sit in the parking lot like some kind of stalker. I recognized Maylee's car from my previous reconnaissance, a white Honda with a dancing hula girl on the dashboard. An hour passed, then 2. I was about to leave when I saw David's silver Lexus pull into the lot. My blood froze. He'd said he had client meetings all day. I slumped down in my seat, watching as he walked inside. My phone showed 11:47 a.m. I waited, barely breathing. Cars came and went. A woman walked her dog past my car twice, giving me suspicious looks the second time. At 1:18 p.m., David emerged, alone, looking relaxed. He got in his car and drove away. I sat there for another 10 minutes, shaking. Then I walked inside. Hi, I don't have an appointment, but is Maylee available? I asked the receptionist. I'm sorry, she's booked solid today. I can check her availability for next week. That's okay, thanks. I turned to leave and almost collided with Maylee herself, carrying a bottle of water. Oh, excuse me, she said in accented English, not recognizing me. No problem, I managed, my heart pounding. Back in my car, I called David's office. Peterson, Carlisle, and Associates, the receptionist answered. Hi, could I speak with David Morrison, please? I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison is in client meetings all afternoon. Can I take a message? No, that's fine. Thank you. So he'd lied about his whereabouts, but not about having meetings. The massage had been squeezed into his lunch break. Innocent enough, except for the deception. That evening, I watched him across the dinner table. He mentioned the client meetings, how exhausting they'd been, how he'd grabbed a sandwich at his desk between sessions. The lies flowed so easily. You're back feeling better? I asked. What? Oh yeah, much better. That stretch you showed me really helped. Another lie. I'd shown him no stretch. After dinner, while David watched TV with the kids, I retreated to our bedroom with my laptop. I found myself on a forum for women who discovered their husbands had cheated. The stories were eerily similar. Massage parlors, happy endings, lies about working late, but they all had proof. Credit card statements showing large charges, texts they'd discovered, lipstick on collars. I had nothing but overheard gossip in a language my husband didn't know I spoke. My sister Rachel called while I was deep in a thread about signs of cheating. Hey, you missed Mom's birthday dinner planning. Everything okay? I'd completely forgotten. Sorry, just busy with work. You sound weird. What's going on? I wanted to tell her everything, but the words wouldn't come. David might be cheating, I finally said. Silence. Then, what? Why do you think that? I explained about the massage, what I'd overheard. It sounded insane, even to my own ears. So, you think he's cheating because a massage therapist said he asked for a happy ending? Maybe she was lying. Maybe she had him confused with someone else. Men say stupid things to SX workers sometimes, trying to be macho. Doesn't mean anything actually happened. But he lied about going there today. Did he? Maybe he didn't think it was worth mentioning. You know how men are about self-care. They act like getting a massage is some shameful secret. Her rational explanations made sense, but they didn't ease the knot in my stomach. After we hung up, I felt more alone than ever. Even my sister doubted me. Friday arrived with David announcing he'd be working late again on the Peterson case. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. After he left, after the kids were asleep, I did something I'd sworn I wouldn't do. I drove to his office. The building was mostly dark, but I could see lights on the 3rd floor where David's office was. His car sat in its usual spot in the parking garage. I waited an hour, then 2. At 10:47 p.m., he emerged, briefcase in hand, looking exhausted. He got in his car and drove home. I followed at a distance, feeling pathetic. He was actually working late, this time. Saturday morning, David suggested we take the kids to the farmer's market. As we walked between stalls of fresh produce and homemade jam, he held my hand, bought me flowers from a vendor, joked with the kids about the weird-looking gourds. To anyone watching, we were the perfect family. I've been thinking, he said as we loaded vegetables into our reusable bags. We should plan a vacation. Maybe Hawaii? We haven't been anywhere just the 4 of us in years. That sounds nice, I said, wondering if this was guilt-talking or genuine desire to reconnect. Emma and Jake immediately started debating beaches versus volcanoes, while David pulled up resort websites on his phone. I watched them, feeling like an outsider in my own family. How could I go to Hawaii, share a bed with him in some romantic resort when I didn't even even know if I could trust him. Sunday brought Emma's soccer game. David cheered enthusiastically from the sidelines, high-fiving other parents, completely normal. I sat on the bleachers, pretending to watch while my mind churned. Maybe Rachel was right. Maybe I was creating problems where none existed. But then I remembered the therapist's certainty. This isn't the first time I'm seeing her husband. I think I've seen him before. She knew him. After the game, as we drove to get ice cream to celebrate Emma's goal, David's phone rang. He glanced at it, then declined the call. Who was that? I asked. Nobody. Probably spam. But I'd seen the caller ID. Elements Spa. My blood ran cold. Why would they be calling him on a Sunday? I pulled out my own phone, pretending to check messages while actually Googling their hours. Closed Sundays. At the ice cream shop, I excused myself to the bathroom and called the spa's number. It went straight to their after-hours voicemail. So why had someone called David from that number? I returned to find David helping Jake choose between cookie dough and mint chip, laughing at our son's serious deliberation. He looked up at me, smiled, and for a moment I saw the man I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. The man who'd stayed up all night with me when Emma had croup, who'd surprised me with anniversary trips, who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. Was I really going to destroy our marriage over something I might have misheard? That night, I suggested couples counseling. David looked surprised. Is everything okay? I mean, I know we've both been stressed with work and the kids, but I just think it might help with communication. We barely have time to talk anymore. He set down his book, giving me his full attention. If you think it would help, absolutely. Whatever you need. His easy agreement threw me off balance. Would a guilty man be so willing? I found a therapist who could see us Thursday afternoon. In the meantime, I tried to act normal. I cooked David's favorite meals, helped with homework, attended Jake's basketball tryout. But underneath, I was constantly watching, analyzing, doubting. Wednesday came. David didn't mention any back pain, didn't go for a massage. I checked our credit card statement online. No spa charges. Of course, he could be paying cash now, knowing I'd overheard something. At our first counseling session, Dr. Patricia Winters sat across from us in a beige office that smelled like vanilla candles. She asked about our history, our concerns, our goals. I feel like we're disconnecting, I said carefully. Trust has become an issue. David looked genuinely confused. Trust? What do you mean? I couldn't say it. Couldn't voice my suspicions in front of this stranger. Just feeling like we're not as open with each other anymore. Dr. Winters nodded, making notes. David, how do you feel about trust in your relationship? I trust Susan completely, he said without hesitation. I'm worried that she doesn't trust me though. She seemed anxious lately, checking up on me more than usual. Heat flooded my face. He'd noticed. Can you give an example? Dr. Winters asked. Just questions about my schedule, where I'm going, looking through my things. I found her going through my dresser the other day. Emma had told him. Of course she had. I was looking for something, I said weakly. Susan, what would help you feel more secure in the relationship? Dr. Winters asked. The word burst out before I could stop it. Honesty. David's face changed. Are you saying I'm dishonest? I'm saying sometimes I feel like there are things you don't tell me. Like what? I couldn't say it. Not here. Not like this. Just things. The session continued with Dr. Winters guiding us through communication exercises, but I could feel David's confusion and hurt radiating from his side of the couch. We scheduled another appointment for the following week. In the car afterward, David was quiet. Finally, he said, if you think I'm lying about something, just ask me. This dancing around it is driving me crazy. Are you having an affair? The words tumbled out. He pulled over, turning to face me. What? No. Jesus, Susan, where is this coming from? You've been working late, getting massages you don't mention, changing your phone password. I changed my password because Jake kept downloading games on my phone. The massages are for my back. You know this. And yes, I've been working late because the Peterson case is huge for the firm. If I make partner, he ran his hands through his hair. I can't believe you think I'm cheating. His indignation seemed real, but then he'd seemed real at dinner when lying about his day. I'm sorry, I said, not meaning it. I heard something that made me worried. Heard what? From who? I couldn't tell him. Once I revealed I spoke Thai, I'd lose any chance of finding out the truth. Just gossip. It's stupid. He took my hand. Susan, I love you. Only you. I would never cheat, ever. You have to believe me. I wanted to. God, how I wanted to. We drove home in silence. That night, he showed me his phone, gave me his new password, opened his email. Look through whatever you want, he said. I have nothing to hide. I found nothing incriminating. His texts were all work-related or family logistics. His emails were boring legal documents and Amazon receipts. His photos were of the kids, our vacation last summer, screenshots of fantasy football stats. Satisfied? He asked, and I heard hurt in his voice. I'm sorry, I said again. He pulled me into a hug. We'll get through this. Whatever's making you doubt us, we'll work through it. Friday morning, I called Elements and booked an appointment with Maylee for the following Wednesday. 3 weeks since I'd first tried to see her. If I was going to get answers, I needed to be strategic. The weekend passed in a blur of family activities. David seemed to be making an extra effort, bringing me coffee in bed, suggesting we watch my favorite movie after the kids went to sleep, holding my hand whenever we were together. Either he was genuinely trying to reconnect, or he was overcompensating for guilt. Monday arrived with Emma announcing she needed supplies for a school project due Wednesday. After dropping the kids at school, I headed to Target, list in hand. In the parking lot, I saw a familiar white Honda with a dancing hula girl on the dashboard. My heart stopped. Maylee was here. I abandoned my cart and followed her into the store, keeping my distance. She moved through the aisles efficiently, picking up shampoo, vitamins, a birthday card, normal things, human things. It was strange seeing her outside the spa context. She got in line at checkout. I positioned myself 2 lines over, pretending to browse magazines while watching. That's when I saw him. David's client, Robert Peterson, appeared beside Maylee, carrying a basket of groceries. He kissed her cheek, casual and familiar. They chatted as they waited, clearly together. My mind reeled. Maylee was dating David's biggest client, the one whose case was keeping him at the office late. They left together, and I abandoned my shopping to follow them to the parking lot. They got into Peterson's BMW, Maylee leaving her Honda behind. Back home, I Googled frantically. Robert Peterson lawyer brought up up his firm bio. Divorced, 2 kids. Robert Peterson girlfriend, yielded nothing. But on his Facebook page, which was mostly public, I found photos from a charity gala 2 months ago. There was Maylee, stunning in a red dress, tagged as guest of Robert Peterson 2 months ago, right around when David started working late more often on the Peterson case. My phone rang. David, hey, just wanted to let you know I'll be late again tonight. Peterson wants to go over the depositions one more time. With Peterson? I asked carefully. Yeah, we're grabbing dinner to discuss strategy. Probably be home by 10. Another lie? Or was he actually meeting with Peterson? And if so, did he know about Maylee? Okay, see you tonight. I spent the afternoon constructing scenarios. Maybe Peterson had recommended elements to David. Maybe that's how David had met Maylee. Maybe Peterson knew about the happy endings and had encouraged David to partake. Maybe they had some kind of arrangement. Or maybe I was creating connections where none existed, seeing patterns and coincidences. Emma and Jake came home needing help with homework. Dinner needed cooking. Permission slips needed signing. I went through the motions, all while my mind churned with possibilities. David came home at 9:45, looking exhausted, but pleased. Good meeting? I asked. Great, I think we've got a solid strategy. Peterson's confident we'll win. That's wonderful. Hey, do you know if he's dating anyone? David looked puzzled by the non sequitur. Peterson? Yeah, he's been seeing someone for a few months. Nice woman, met her at some charity thing. Why? Just curious. You mention him so much, I feel like I know him. You should meet him sometime. Maybe we could do a double date when this case is over. A double date with Maylee, who'd possibly given my husband a happy ending. That sounds nice, I managed. Tuesday crawled by. I accomplished nothing at work. My mind fixated on the next day's appointment with Maylee. I'd rehearsed what to say 100 times, but nothing sounded right. That evening, our second counseling session with Dr. Winters focused on rebuilding trust. David participated earnestly, suggesting we share our phone locations, have regular check-ins, plan more date nights. He seemed genuinely committed to fixing whatever was broken. I still sense hesitation from you, Susan, Dr. Winters observed. What would it take for you to fully trust David again? I don't know, I admitted. I guess time? Time and consistency, she agreed. Trust is rebuilt through repeated positive interactions. David reached for my hand. I'll do whatever it takes. Looking at his earnest face, I almost canceled the appointment with Maylee. Almost. Wednesday morning, I dropped the kids at school and drove to Elements. My hands shook as I checked in. You're seeing Maylee today, the receptionist confirmed. She'll be right with you. I was led to the same room where everything had started. The smell of lavender oil made my stomach turn. When Maylee entered, I forced myself to breathe normally. Hello, she said with a professional smile. Any areas of concern today? Just general tension, I said, lying face down on the table. Her hands were skilled, working out knots I didn't know I had. We were 15 minutes in before I worked up the courage to speak. My friend recommended you, I said casually. Robert Peterson? Her hands paused for just a moment. Oh, you know Robert? Through my husband, David Morrison. He's working on Robert's case. Another pause. Longer this time. I see. Robert speaks very highly of you. I continued fishing. That's kind of him. Her voice was carefully neutral. I tried another angle. My husband comes here too. David? He mentioned you're excellent. We have many clients, she said. I don't always remember names, but her hands had tensed. She knew exactly who David was. He's been having back problems, I pressed on. I keep telling him he needs to come more regularly. Regular massage can be very beneficial, she agreed, her tone giving nothing away. I switched tactics, speaking in Thai. How long have you been in America? She jerked back, startled. You speak Thai? I taught English in Bangkok for 5 years, I continued in Thai. I miss it sometimes. Her professional mask slipped slightly. I've been here 8 years. It's different. Do you ever go back to visit? Not often. Too expensive. We chatted about Thailand, about the food we missed, the culture shock of America. She relaxed incrementally, though her hands remained professional on my back. Can I ask you something? I said eventually, still in Thai. Woman to woman? She hesitated. Okay, my husband, David Morrison. I know he comes here. Silence. I heard some things from other clients about extra services. Her hands stilled completely. I don't know what you mean. Please, I just need to know the truth. Did he ask you for anything inappropriate? She resumed the massage, but I could feel her trembling slightly. I can't discuss other clients. I know. I'm not asking you to betray client confidentiality. I'm asking as a wife who needs to know if her marriage is real. For a long moment, she worked in silence. Then very quietly, she said in Thai, I cannot lose this job. I have a work visa through the spa. If I'm fired, I won't say anything. I promise. I just need to know. Another long silence. Then, your husband is a professional client. Nothing inappropriate has ever happened. But the way she said it, the careful phrasing, told me everything. He'd asked, she'd refused. Nothing had happened, but not for lack of trying on his part. Thank you, I whispered. She finished the massage in silence. As I got dressed, she knocked and opened the door slightly. Your husband loves you, she said in English. Whatever you heard, men say foolish things sometimes. It doesn't mean they act on them. Then she was gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. I sat in my car afterward, processing. David had asked for a happy ending. Maylee had refused. But what about other therapists? Other spas? How many times had he asked before someone said yes? My phone buzzed. David, texting about dinner plans, acting normal, being a good husband. I drove home in a daze. The truth I'd sought was somehow worse than not knowing. He'd tried to cheat. The intent was there, even if the action wasn't. Or at least, not with Maylee. That night, I watched him help Jake with math homework, his patience endless as he explained the same concept 3 different ways. He caught me staring and smiled. That same crooked smile that had made me fall for him 17 years ago. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, I lied. Everything's fine. But nothing would ever be fine again. The doubt had taken root, spreading like poison through every interaction. When he worked late, I wondered. When he got a massage for his legitimate back pain, I wondered. When he smiled at a waitress or chatted with a female colleague, I wondered. Dr. Winters noticed the change at our next session. Susan, you seem more distant than last week. Has something happened? I couldn't tell her. Couldn't admit I'd manipulated Maylee into a half confession. Just processing everything. David, how do you feel the week has gone? I thought it was better. matter, he said, glancing at me uncertainly. I've been completely transparent, coming home earlier, checking in more, but I feel like Susan's pulling away. Susan? Dr. Winters prompted. I need time, I said. It was becoming my refrain. We left with homework, trust-building exercises, daily affirmations of appreciation. David threw himself into them enthusiastically. Every morning, he left me notes listing things he loved about me. Every evening, he shared his complete schedule for the next day. He was trying so hard it broke my heart, because I knew now that he was capable of betrayal, not the accomplished fact of it perhaps, but the desire, the willingness. And that was almost worse than if he'd actually done it. At least then I'd have something concrete to forgive or not forgive. Instead, I was trapped in a gray area of attempted transgression. 2 weeks passed. I went through the motions of rebuilding trust while dying inside. David noticed my mechanical responses to his affection, but seemed to attribute it to the healing process Dr. Winters kept mentioning. Then came the firm's holiday party. Spouses were invited, and David was eager for me to attend. Peterson will be there, he said. You can finally meet him, and his girlfriend. I think you'd really like her. The thought of making small talk with Maylee made me nauseous. I don't know. Emma has that science fair project. Please? David took my hands. I want to show off my beautiful wife. Let everyone know we're solid. So I went. I put on my best dress, fixed my hair, painted on a smile. The hotel ballroom was elegant, full of lawyers and their significant others drinking champagne and networking. There's Peterson, David said, waving across the room. Come on, I'll introduce you. My feet felt leaden as we approached. Maylee stood beside Peterson in an elegant black cocktail dress, looking stunning. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw me, but she recovered quickly. Robert, this is my wife Susan, David said. Susan, Robert Peterson, and his girlfriend. Maylee, she supplied, extending her hand. Lovely to meet you. I shook her hand, both of us maintaining the charade. Nice to meet you too. David tells me you're a teacher, Peterson said, launching into small talk. I responded appropriately while hyper-aware of Maylee beside me. David had his hand on my lower back, proprietary and affectionate. Did she notice? Did she think about how he'd propositioned her while married to me? If you'll excuse me, Maylee said after a few minutes. I need to find the ladies' room. I'll come with you, I said quickly. David, why don't you and Robert talk shop? Maylee and I walked in silence to the bathroom. Inside, she checked that we were alone before turning to me. Why did you come? She asked in Thai. He wanted me to. I couldn't think of an excuse. This is very uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I didn't know you'd be here. Well, I suspected, but she touched up her lipstick in the mirror. Your husband doesn't know you came to see me? Number good. It should stay that way, for everyone's sake. Does Robert know about what David asked you? She shook her head. Robert is a good man. He doesn't need to know his lawyer is inappropriate. We stood there awkwardly, two women bound by an ugly secret. I should tell you, she said finally. I'm leaving Elements. Robert has asked me to move in with him, and his house is too far from downtown. I'm transferring to a spa near his place. Relief flooded through me. When? Next month. One less reminder. One less source of anxiety. Can I ask you something? I said. Do you think he's actually done it with someone else? She met my eyes in the mirror. I don't know, but I can tell you this. He's not the only one who asks. Many men do. Most are turned down, but some therapists, they need the money, or they're afraid to say no. It's not right, but it happens. So he might have. I don't know, she repeated. I hope not, for your sake. We returned to the party separately. I plastered on my smile, chatted with David's colleagues, played the supportive wife, but inside, I was calculating probabilities. How many spas were in our city? How many therapists? How many times had David asked? What were the odds that he'd always been refused? The next morning, Saturday, David suggested we take the kids to the Science Museum. As we wandered through exhibits about space and dinosaurs, I watched him with Emma and Jake. He was a good father. Engaged, patient, loving. Did that balance out being a potentially unfaithful husband? Mom, look, Jake called, pointing at a replica Mars rover. Can we build one of these? That might be a bit ambitious, buddy, David laughed, ruffling his hair. But we could try a model rocket? They fell into an animated discussion about propulsion and trajectories. Emma rolled her eyes at me, and for a moment we were just a normal family enjoying a weekend outing. But normal was an illusion now. Every moment was tainted by what I knew, what I suspected, what I might never be able to prove. That night, after the kids were asleep, David found me in the kitchen staring at a cold cup of tea. Talk to me, he said, sitting across from me. Please. I feel like I'm losing you, and I don't understand why. I looked at him, really looked at him. The concern in his eyes seemed genuine. The wedding ring he'd worn for 15 years caught the light. His hands, familiar and steady, reached for mine across the table. Do you still love me? I asked. Of course I do. More than anything. You and the kids are my whole world. Have you ever been tempted to be with someone else? He squeezed my hands. Susan, I told you. I would never cheat on you. But that wasn't what I'd asked. I'd asked if he'd been tempted. The evasion told me everything. I think I need some space, I heard myself say. His face crumpled. What? No, Susan, please. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Don't give up on us. I'm not giving up. I need to think. Maybe I should visit Rachel for a few days. Is this about the trust issues? I've done everything you've asked. I've been completely transparent. What more can I do? You could build a time machine, I thought. Go back and not ask for a happy ending. Not betray our marriage in your heart, even if not in deed. It's not about what you can do, I said aloud. It's about what I need to process. He was crying now. This man who'd only cried twice in our entire marriage, when his mother died and when Emma was born. Please don't leave, he whispered. Even for a few days. We can work through this together. Looking at him broken like this, I almost caved. Almost convinced myself I was overreacting to something that might never have progressed beyond words. But then I remembered Maylee's careful phrasing, her trembling hands, the way she'd said, men say foolish things sometimes, like it was a burden she carried. I'll be back Sunday night, I said. The kids have school Monday. I just need this weekend to clear my head. He nodded miserably. What do I tell them? Tell them I'm helping Aunt Rachel with something. They don't need to know. That their mother thinks their father is a cheater? The bitterness in his voice was new. That their parents are having problems. I finished. I packed a bag while he sat on our bed, watching. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt final, like something breaking that couldn't be repaired. I love you, he said as I headed for the door. I know. know, I replied, but I didn't say it back. The drive to Rachel's took 3 hours. 3 hours of second guessing, of nearly turning around a dozen times. But I kept going, arriving at her apartment complex as the sun set. "Oh, honey," she said when she opened the door and saw my face. "Come here." I collapsed into my sister's arms and finally let myself cry. For my marriage, for my children, for the simple trust I'd never get back, for the woman I'd been before I understood Ty, before I'd heard those words that changed everything. "Tell me everything," Rachel said, leading me to her couch. So I did. Every detail, every doubt, every piece of evidence and lack thereof. She listened without interrupting, occasionally refilling my wine glass. "So you don't actually know if he's physically cheated," she summarized when I finished. "Number just that he tried to, at least once. And this therapist, Maylee, she turned him down." "Yes, but you think there might be others who didn't." "The odds seem likely." Rachel sighed. "Oh, Susan, I'm so sorry. This is awful. What would you do?" I asked. "If it were you?" She considered carefully. "I don't know. The not knowing would cull me. But maybe that's part of marriage? Choosing to trust even when you can't be certain? I don't think I can do that. Not anymore." "Then what's your plan?" I didn't have one. Divorce seemed extreme for something I couldn't prove. Staying seemed impossible with this doubt eating me alive. I was trapped between two unbearable options. "Maybe," Rachel said gently, "you need to decide what you can live with. Can you live with possibly being married to a cheater? Or would you rather live with possibly having divorced a faithful man who had one moment of weakness that went nowhere?" Both options sounded horrible when she put it like that. I spent the weekend at Rachel's trying to gain perspective. She took me hiking, to brunch, to a movie, anything to distract me, but my mind kept returning to David and the kids, to the life I'd built that now felt like a house of cards. David texted regularly. Photos of him and the kids at the park, updates on homework completed and meals eaten. "We miss you, and please come home, and I love you so much." Each message was a small knife. Sunday afternoon, I knew I had to go back. Not because I'd found clarity, but because I was a mother first, and my children needed stability. "Whatever you decide," Rachel said as I prepared to leave, "I'm here, always." The drive home felt like heading to an execution. My execution or my marriages, I wasn't sure which. David was waiting on the front porch when I pulled up. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept. The kids burst out of the house, wrapping themselves around me. "Mom, Dad said you were helping Aunt Rachel, but she posted on Instagram that she was at the movies. Were you at the movies? Why didn't you take us?" I met David's eyes over their heads. He looked away. "Let's go inside," I said. "I'll make dinner." The evening passed in forced normalcy. Homework, baths, bedtime stories. David and I moved around each other carefully, like dancers who'd forgotten the steps. After the kids were asleep, we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where this had all started with me checking bank statements. "So," he said, "what happens now?" I stared at him across our kitchen table, the question hanging between us like smoke. What happens now? The honest answer was that I had no idea. "I think we need to separate," I heard myself say. "Just for a while, to figure things out." David's face went pale. "Susan, no, we can work through this. The kids need parents who aren't destroying each other with doubt and suspicion." I kept my voice steady, though my hands shook under the table. "This isn't working. Because you won't let it work. You won't believe me." "I can't," I admitted. "Not anymore." The next 3 weeks blurred together in a haze of apartment hunting, difficult conversations with Emma and Jake, and sleepless nights. David alternated between desperate attempts to change my mind and cold acceptance. The kids didn't understand why mommy needed her own space for a while, but we maintained the fiction that it was temporary. I found a one-bedroom apartment 20 minutes away, close enough for school runs but far enough to avoid daily reminders. David helped me move boxes on a Saturday while the kids were at their grandmother's, both of us pretending this was normal. "This is insane," he muttered, carrying my clothes to his truck. "You're destroying our family over something you think you heard." "I know what I heard. In a language you haven't spoken regularly in years? While getting a massage? You could have misunderstood." "Stop. I couldn't have this argument again. Please just stop." The apartment was small but clean, with white walls that felt like blank slates. I spent the first night there sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. But every time I considered going back, I remembered Maylee's trembling hands, her careful words. Nothing inappropriate has ever happened. Not, he never asked, just that nothing had happened. The custody arrangement fell into place with depressing efficiency. Kids stayed in the house for stability. I got them alternate weekends and Wednesday dinners. David was gracious about it, which somehow made it worse. "We're still a family," he told Emma and Jake. "Mom and Dad just need some time apart to work on grown-up stuff." Emma, always too perceptive, watched me carefully during our first weekend together. "Is this about Dad's massages?" she asked while we made pancakes. "I heard you fighting about it." My heart clenched. "It's complicated, honey. Everything's complicated with you lately," she said, and the accusation in her voice cut deep. I threw myself into establishing routines. Work, apartment, kids, work, apartment, kids. But in the quiet moments, the obsession crept back. I found myself on Reddit at 2 a.m., reading posts about infidelity, about gaslighting, about women who'd lost their minds trying to prove what they knew in their bones. One Thursday, Jake mentioned casually over homework, "Dad's friend from work helped me with my science project. She's really smart." "Oh?" I kept my voice neutral. "What's her name?" "Molly. She's pretty too. She has red hair like Ariel." "Molly." I filed the name away, though I told myself it meant nothing. David had female colleagues. This was normal. But when I picked the kids up that Sunday, I saw her. Red hair, early 30s, laughing at something David said in the doorway. She noticed me watching and waved cheerfully before heading to her car. "Who was that?" I asked Emma as she buckled her seatbelt. "Dad's friend Molly. She brought us donuts." Of course she did. Dr. Winters had recommended I continue individual therapy, and I found myself in Dr. Marcus Chen's office every Tuesday, trying to explain why I couldn't just move forward. "Your husband showed you his phone, his emails, his complete schedule," Dr. Chen noted during our 4th session. "What would it take for you to believe he's been faithful?" "A time machine," I said, "to go back and not hear what I heard." "But you can't be certain what you heard was about your husband." She recognized him. She knew him. Massage therapists see many clients. please don't. I was tired of reasonable explanations. I know what I know. He made notes, probably about my rigidity, my inability to consider alternatives. I didn't care anymore. The divorce papers came on a Tuesday. David had them sent to my office, which felt like a kindness. Avoiding the apartment that still didn't feel like home. No-fault divorce, irreconcilable differences, equal division of assets, shared custody already in place, clean and civilized, like our marriage had never happened. I signed them in my car during lunch, hands steady now. This was just paperwork. The real divorce had happened months ago, in a massage room, in a language my husband didn't know I spoke. That weekend, while cleaning out the garage, David had asked me to take some boxes I'd left behind. I found his old journal in a box of college memorabilia. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Most entries were mundane. Work stress, fitness goals, notes about the kids. Then, dated 2 years ago, Maylee again today. Best part of my week. She really knows how to work out the tension. I stared at the words, my hands trembling. Innocent or confirmation? The ambiguity was maddening. I photographed the page and showed it to my lawyer the next day. This doesn't prove anything, she said gently. Massage therapists help with tension. That's their job. But the way he wrote it could mean anything. I'm sorry, but this won't affect the divorce proceedings. She was right, of course. Nothing ever proved anything. That was the hell of it. The final meeting with Dr. Winters included David. A closure session, she called it. We sat on opposite ends of the couch that had once felt too small for both of us. Is there anything you want to say to each other? Dr. Winters asked. Any final questions? David turned to me. I need you to know, I was too friendly with Maylee. I see that now. She was attractive and kind, and I enjoyed talking to her. Maybe I flirted a little, but Susan, I swear to you, nothing physical ever happened. Too friendly. Flirted a little. The admissions that changed nothing. Did you ask her for a happy ending? The words came out before I could stop them. His face flushed. What? No. Jesus, Susan, is that what this is about? But there was something in his eyes. A flicker of, what? Guilt? Surprise that I knew the term? Or just frustration at my continued accusations? I need to know. No, he said firmly. I never asked for that. From anyone. Ever. I wanted to believe him, but I'd heard what I'd heard. We signed the final papers in a conference room that smelled like coffee and leather. David's lawyer, my lawyer, a notary, all very professional. When it was done, David asked about pickup times for the kids' spring break. I'll email you, I said. Sure. Oh, and Emma wants to try out for travel soccer. The forms, just send them over. We were reduced to logistics, scheduling, the business of shared children.